and welcome to SportsLine. Jake Smolinski here along with Brendan Rigney.
Great show for you. Rissa de Puerto will give you this week's marquee matchup.
And later, we will give you the highlights from my sit-down with swimmer Jakub Bartoszewicz.
Great stuff. Some exciting, great stuff. But first, let's catch up on what went down this past week for our athletes. The women's volleyball team visited the Rhode Island Rams on Friday, October 9th, and did not receive the warm welcome for which they had hoped. The Explorers struggled to make anything happen, losing in straight sets. In a high-energy first set, both teams answered each other until the very end, as the Rams took the W 26-24. Set 2 was equally competitive, with the Explorers leading 24-20 until Rhode Island scored 4 straight points to take the frame 30-28. LaSalle was out of gas in set 3, losing 25-19.
And things didn't pick up for LaSalle the following day as they traveled south to Fordham University, where they dropped their 5th consecutive match in 5 sets. LaSalle jumped out to an early lead with a 25-18 victory in the first before things turned grim, as the Rams captured sets 2 and 3 by scores of 25-21 and 25-17 respectively. In frame 4, the Explorers rebounded with a 25-19 win to force a 5th set. The deciding set was fairly close throughout, but Fordham pulled out the win 15-12. Freshman Madison Cook led both teams with 21 kills, tied for 4th, most by any A10 player in the conference match this season.
Field hockey took a rough 5-0 loss to A10 powerhouse Richmond on October 9th. Despite going into the game with a confident 2-game win streak, LaSalle's defense was eaten alive by the Spiders. With Richmond tallying a brutal 21 shots on goal, goalie Rachel Hartman was left on her own, managing an impressive 8 saves in the face of the onslaught. The offensive press began in the 30th minute, with Richmond striking from the top of the box. In the 33rd, the Spiders took a one-on-one fast break to the bank to make the score 2-0. Another 3 goals followed after the 45th minute, and LaSalle was left trying to pick up the pieces. Junior Abby Lawrence did manage to pull off 2 of the 3 shots that LaSalle had that night.
And on the other hand, the loss to Richmond was incentive enough to perform, as the Blue and Gold leapt to a strong 2-1 win against VCU on October 11th. Jenica Miller set the tone in the 2nd minute with a solid rebound in front of the cage for the score. Miller set up another play only 7 minutes later by crossing to Megan Kita for the next goal. Bringing the score 2-0 in the first 9 minutes, the Explorers proceeded to get the defense locked down as well. In a refreshing change of pace, the back line only allowed 5 shots on net. Hartman made 4 saves on the game, with only 1 slip-up in the 65th minute. This win brings the team to a 2-3 record in the A10.
Well, the women's swimming and diving team opened up their A10 season on October the 10th, in which James Madison defeated the Explorers 181-116 at Kirkpool. But despite the loss, LaSalle still posted some impressive performances against the favored Dukes. Sophomore Emma Smith led the Explorers in wins by finishing first in both the 500-yard and 1,000-yard freestyle events. Smith conquered the 1,000-yard freestyle by over 10 seconds, clocking in a time of 10 minutes and 29.55 seconds. The Explorers also took first in the 500-yard freestyle relay and 200-yard butterfly. The meet ended strongly for LaSalle with a 200-yard freestyle win to close out the day. Ultimately, LaSalle won 6 events against the JMU Dukes.
Then on October 3rd, the men's and women's rowing teams took to the Schuylkill River for the annual Navy Day Regatta. For the women, senior Caitlin Reyes was in the cox position as the lightweight forward team earned the win, beating out Army and Lehigh for first place. The freshman 4 women's team also impressed in their debut race after finishing 2nd behind Temple. However, the women's varsity 4 fell far behind, finishing in 16th place. And then the men did not perform as well as the women in their own races. Sophomore Grant Maddox sat in the cox position for the varsity 8 boat, which finished in 19th. The lightweight 8 failed to find their winning ways and finished in the 9th spot.
After that devastating 2-1 loss in overtime to A10 rival George Washington, women's soccer got back on track against St. Joe's on October the 11th. The Explorers got to work quickly with 2 goals in the first half. Mary-Kate Bateman found the back of the net first in the 23rd minute before Madison Bauer added her own just before halftime on a chip shot. The Hawks got on the board in the opening of the second half, but LaSalle secured the 3-1 win when redshirt freshman Clarissa Kirschdowns netted the first goal of her career in the 62nd minute.
And men's soccer had their own big win on the road, this time against St. Bonaventure in their 3rd A10 contest of the season. In the opening minutes, it seemed like an even matchup until the 28th, when senior Andrew Connor scored a header off a Mike Liska assist. In the 48th minute, Mike Liska assisted again, this time to help sophomore Ryan Nork score his first goal of the season and double the score 2-0 LaSalle. The points continued to come when junior Connor Nichols scored in the 71st minute, bringing the final score to 3-0 LaSalle. And if you're keeping track at home, I, Jacob Smolinski, predicted this exact outcome last week. Thank you.
Coming off that big win, both for LaSalle's men's soccer and Jacob Smolinski, LaSalle looked to duplicate its success at home against VCU on October 14th. Anna Gomez has the recap.
Anna Gomez here at McCarthy Stadium as men's soccer takes on the VCU Rams. LaSalle is currently 1-2 in the conference after coming off a big win at St. Bonaventure, and VCU is 2-1 in the conference. Now, last year, LaSalle tied with VCU in a scoreless draw. Let's see how it all went down this time. The Explorers in blue challenged VCU right away, taking 3 shots on goal within the first 15 minutes of play. That would be the most action seen on the field in such a short span of time, as competitors settled into a midfield stalemate, vying for control for the rest of the half. In the second, VCU dominated possession, keeping the ball on their side of the field, but only taking 2 shots on goal. Freshman keeper Cameron Keyes was especially aggressive in goal and held off the Rams. Additionally, defenders Coleman Kennedy and Zach Rutherford held their own against VCU's near-constant offensive. Those efforts allowed LaSalle to keep the matchup scoreless, pushing them into overtime. Even with the heightened intensity of double overtime, LaSalle was not able to make anything happen, and the tie was finalized. While VCU held possession the majority of the game, LaSalle outshot the Rams 8-6. Andrew Connors and Coleman Kennedy each made 2 on net, with further attempts made by Joe Farrell, Sixtus Akinlasotu, Joe Hansen, and Ryan Nork. It looks like history repeated itself here at McCarthy Stadium as LaSalle tied VCU in a scoreless draw again. This makes them 1-2 in the conference as they look to take on the Dayton Flyers on Saturday. For SportsLine, I'm Anna Gomez.
Now, let's talk about some weekly accomplishments for LaSalle sports. Men's soccer is experiencing pockets of great success this season, thanks in large part to Andrew Connors' play on the field. The senior tallied 3 goals in 2 games against Duquesne and St. Bonaventure and was named Philadelphia Soccer 6th Player of the Week. On the team's defense, standout freshman Cameron Keyes was given Soccer 6th Rookie of the Week honors as well. The goalkeeper has made 3 starts, 2 of which were shutouts. In the team's 3-0 win over the Bonnies, Keyes grabbed 4 saves.
And then in the pool, women's swimming and diving, Olivia DiStefano was given Freshman of the Week honors by the A10. DiStefano clocked in the fastest 100-yard leg of a 400-yard medley all season with a time of 58.03 seconds. The rookie also grabbed 3rd place in the 50-yard freestyle with a time of 24.63 seconds.
Also, we have an exciting exploring headline for you. Women's basketball has named former NCAA player Crystal Caldwell as assistant coach and director of basketball operations. Caldwell was first team All Big 12 as a senior at West Virginia and played professionally in Romania. Some great stuff, Jake, but it's time for our first break. So please don't touch that remote. So help me.
Because after the break, we'll have my chat with swimmer Jakub Bartoszewicz. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I had the chance to sit down and chat with the LaSalle swimmer and international student, the Polish Falcon, Jakub Bartoszewicz. Take a look. Hello and welcome to another edition of On the Sidelines. I'm your host for today, Jacob Smolinski, and I'm sitting down here with Polish sophomore swimmer on the swim team, Jakub Bartoszewicz. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jake. That's a pleasure for me to be here again.
Perfect. All right. So I got to ask, last time we interviewed you, you had a really, really solid season as a freshman, like just paving the way for a really good career. And then we also got to talk a little bit about you getting to go home, hang out back in Poland. And I got to ask, how was the off season?
It was great, really. I took part in the Polish Championship at the beginning. It was okay, really. The results wasn't as good as I expected, but it was great lesson to take. And after Polish Championship, I just took a couple weeks off because I really needed it. It was great time, to spend with my family and friends. I really need it.
Yeah. So then, okay, gotta ask then, how was the food?
Oh my God, it was great. Really, the Polish cuisine, I really miss it. So, yeah, that was pretty legit.
No, definitely. All right, and so now making the transition back for the semester, you're a sophomore now, you have a full year of experience under your belt. How is that transition feeling at the moment?
You know what, for me, being a sophomore is much more easier than a freshman, really. Last year, as you mentioned, that was really crazy year for me. It was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of emotional stuff. It was a great year, but the main disadvantage of it was very stressful year. And as a sophomore, I am more cogent about the stuff, and I just take things more easy. So,
absolutely.
I'm more relaxed.
And so I guess now is the season's starting to kind of pick up some speed a little bit. You guys have some pretty intense workouts going on, and also you guys are going to be taking on Villanova, the men's team, coming up.
Yes, exactly, 21st.
Gotcha. So what are you guys doing to prepare for that at the moment?
You know what, our workout changed a little bit. Coaches took a lesson from last A10, especially the dryland and gym is more based on the body weight and more like CrossFit instead of traditional lifting. We swim more, intensity of the practice is higher, and we do more strokes. So definitely there are some changes, and I feel like we are in the better position than we used to be a year ago. So far so good, really.
I gotcha. And so I guess with a lot of new faces kind of coming in on the swim team and everything, how does the team feel right now? Are you guys feeling like a tight-knit family at the moment?
At the beginning was for me personally a little weird to not be this new one.
Yeah.
But definitely after this first month of swimming together and actually doing a lot of stuff together, I can really say team is bonded, and this team has really great potential to do great this year. So we have a lot of great freshmen. We'll see how they will perform on the Villanova, but their results on the practice are really amazing. So yeah, it will be great.
Okay, so then I gotta ask them. So as you guys kind of move now into A10 play, and just you guys are going to Puerto Rico and stuff, or where do you guys go?
On the winter break, we probably will go to the Puerto Rico for 10 days preparation trip. But overall, I'm not fully informed with all those information, so I cannot provide you with anything more.
This is still early in the season.
But Puerto Rico will probably happen. So
I gotta ask then, what are your goals then, personally, kind of for this season?
Personally, first of all, I would like to perform good enough on Bucknell Invitation to qualify on the Winter Championship in Seattle. I have a qualification right now on 100 fly, but I have to improve my 200 fly a little bit to get there. I think I can make it, and definitely I would like to perform better on A10 Championship because last year was okay, but my finish line was not good enough. I don't know what really happened. Maybe I get a little overtrained. Maybe the freshman emotion and the pressure to perform good was too high. So yeah, better performance on A10 and maybe qualify to NCAA will be great. And off season, I would like to try to get the Olympic cut for Polish national team. It is possible. It is challenging, but I think I can make it. It required a lot of hard work, but I'm ready to work hard for it. So we'll see. I stay positive.
I'm intrigued. I would love to see be tuning into the Summer Olympics and then seeing you.
Will be pretty crazy.
That would be pretty crazy. So anyway, we're going to keep track of what's going on. It's still early in the season and everything, but it's great to check in with you. And my final question is, it's late night after swim practice. You're burned out. You go to Happy Fortune. Pizza roll or cheesesteak roll?
Pizza roll, I guess.
Perfect. Well, you heard it here first. That is it for On the Sidelines with Jakub Bartoszewicz. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
That is the show. Back to the desk.
Awesome stuff. But now we're on to some LaSalle sports action ahead of us in the week. But before we get into the marquee matchup with Rissa de Puerto, let's talk about some of the upcoming games. Field hockey has a weekend at home on the 16th and 18th, followed by a weekend on the road on the 23rd and 25th. LaSalle will face St. Joe's and Towson at Vincent Field before traveling to Massachusetts the following weekend. They'll cap off this string of games in Rhode Island against Bryant.
And then the swim teams will compete in the weeks ahead together, with the men's team beginning their season at Villanova, with the women on Wednesday, October 21st. After this, the two will pair up once more at Drexel on the 23rd.
The volleyball team has a busy schedule ahead, beginning with an A10 matchup against George Washington at home on the 16th. 2 days later, they host fellow A10 rival George Mason before heading to Maryland to play Maryland Eastern Shore on the 20th. After this, the Explorers will remain on the road for more conference play against VCU on the 23rd and Davidson on the 25th.
And LaSalle Cross Country will travel to New Jersey for the Princeton Invitational on October 17th. The Explorers last raced in the beginning of the month at the Paul Short Invitational and the Greater Louisville Classic.
The men's tennis team will continue its fall season on October 17th at Drexel to play the Dragons. After this, they will join the women's team at Mount St. Mary's on October the 25th.
And the women's and men's rowing teams will spend an October day on the river as they compete at the Head of the Schuylkill meet on the 24th. Both teams saw action at the Navy Gay Regatta.
Following the scoreless tie against VCU, men's soccer will travel to Dayton on the 17th before heading north to Massachusetts on the 21st. After this, the Explorers will return home to face Rhode Island on the 24th.
And the women's team will spend their next two games at home to host VCU on the 18th, followed by a game versus Richmond on the 22nd. On Sunday, October 25th, the Explorers will travel west to face St. Louis. And Rissa Del Puerto has your latest marquee matchup, so please check it out.
Hi, I'm Rissa Del Puerto, and this is Marquee Matchup. This week, I'm bringing you a quick preview of the men's golf outing at the Lehigh Invitational on Saturday, October 17th. In their season opener, LaSalle Golf made a splash at the Rutgers Invitational, where PJ Asierno won the event, where he shot 6 under par. The team overall took third out of a 14-school field, but at the Patriot Intercollegiate, the team fell off, taking 14th out of 17. Last year at Lehigh, the men took 6 out of 12. But now, let's see the two players that are going to be essential for Saturday. The first, and this is no surprise, is PJ Asierno. The redshirt junior has been a champion for LaSalle's golf, posing top averages hole after hole, year after year. Currently, he is at 71.17. That's the lowest of the team by far. Asierno won the Rutgers invite and led the Explorers at the Patriot. Another force on the green is Joe Markman. He shared the top spot with Asierno at the Patriot at 7 over par and shot a 12 over par at Rutgers. In the past, Markman has been a consistent force, continuously adding depth to the team of 8. The junior averages 74.17 in the 6 rounds this season. A classic Markman performance is going to be fundamental to LaSalle's success if they are going to bounce back from their work at the Patriot. My first key to the game is consistency. Even though the team has only had 2 outings, this is the event that is going to set the pace for the rest of the season. If they can clinch on a solid performance, they are going to be able to keep it going. Secondly, they need to start off as strong as they finish. It takes them a few holes to wake up, but if they can capitalize on the rounds faster, the men will really be on par. Don't forget to stay updated on all men's golf outings, especially at this important place in this season. For SportsLine, I'm Rissa Del Puerto. Go Explorers.
Thank you, Del Puerto. Great job, especially for a freshman coming in.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so anyway, this is time for my favorite segment of the week, Picks of the Week with James Blinsky. And I'm kind of right now, I'm having a very egotistical sort of thing going on. The sheer fact that I managed to somehow predict the fact that men's soccer was going to beat St. Bonaventure 3-0. What are the odds? Brendan?
I don't have the actual odds on it, Jake. I'm sorry.
All I'm going to say is that there are so many ways the outcome of soccer can go, but somehow.
I was very enthused when I saw that.
Well, thank you. I was crying at 3 in the morning on a Tuesday night. Well, anyway, we're going to get into my picks of the week now, and it looks like so right now I have volleyball losing to George Washington 1-3. Right now, I know it's a little bit dour, kind of a bummer, but at the same time, volleyball has been kind of dropping the ball a little bit. We're putting up a huge fight and everything, but when I was looking at George Washington, they're like a mid-range sort of A10 team. But the thing is, they've been kicked around. They're 3-2, I believe. I think we're 0-5 right now in the A10. And I feel like this is going to be their chance after just getting destroyed by Dayton. They're going to need to make something happen.
Interesting thing about LaSalle volleyball that they have they're neck and neck with other opposing teams in the first and second sets. So they're right at the cusp of winning those first 2 sets for every game. And then that third set, I guess they're always out of gas because they put up such a big fuss, in the first 2 sets. So I think if they can win at least the first set and put up a good fight in the second set of any match, they usually stand a much better chance. Like, it sounds like it's like common sense, right? But there is a science to it, I think. And I think looking at what Coach Ringela has done with the volleyball team in the last season and a half that she's been here, I am ecstatic at the success and progress that she's made. So.
It's a lot better than seeing a 1-13 season.
Yes, very much.
I think we can both agree on that. And next, for my next pick, I'm going to go with golf at the Lehigh Invitational. Golf is also a really, really difficult one to sort of narrow down just because there's so many different competitors. It's a team sport, but it's also not exactly a team sport. I'm going to give this one to Markman. Markman's been performing incredibly well, and especially with the size of the Lehigh Invitational and everything, I'm going to say, give or take 2 spots moving up or down, I'm going to say that he has the potential to go 15th in that. We've seen PJ Asierno pull off a win at Rutgers. We have not seen that from our golf team in a really long time, and I think that's absolutely incredible.
I think this is the year. I think this is the year that they're going to make a push to, I think they could make some waves in the A10.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think Markman at 15th is one of those ones where it's not reaching. I think it's reasonable that he can perform that well in an event like this.
I'm not going out and saying hey, he's going to go number one all the time. Honestly, I think it's going to work out. Anyway, and then for my final pick, I'm going to say men's soccer versus Dayton. And I'm going to say that with a score of 2-1. Kind of playing it a little in our favor a little bit. We're coming off of a hot shot sort of, very serious hot shot sort of win against St. Bonaventure, 3-0. That's pretty nice. That's a really good confidence booster, good A10 win, even though Bonaventure is 1-9 or something, which is horribly depressing. But at the same time, it's going to be a really tight game, and I honestly can see it swinging either ways.
Well, I know that the Bonnies aren't exactly one of the best teams in the conference or in the country, but that definitely did help push them to a point where they can have this win against Dayton. Because if you remember, before this game against Bonaventures, they hadn't won a game since September, I think, 19th. They were on a 3-game losing streak, and they had a couple ties in there too. So this game against the Bonnies was crucial to the survival of the rest of their season, I think.
Seriously.
And coming off of that, and then they had the tie just the other night. I don't think that'll really hurt their momentum too much, honestly.
No. That's still solid. That's a good game. A tie in soccer, especially, is not just a loss. It has some significance, and that's where I think we're going to come in against Dayton, which great A10 team. Very competitive. I'm going to say 2-1. So yeah, those are my picks of the week, and we'll keep you guys updated to see if if I can pull off at least another correct prediction. The odds slim, but I have faith in myself.
I have the utmost faith in you, Jake, because we've seen you get ones correct, like who's going to win, who's going to lose, but the fact that you got the score correct for the win for the men's soccer, I'm blown away, absolutely blown away.
Thank you, Brendan.
Well, thank you, Jake, for your picks of the week, but I have something for you. You're going all special on me. Well, I'm going to get all special on you. Well, we had an interesting addition to LaSalle Sports on October the 9th. Fans of the Harry Potter books and movies took to McCarthy to play the game Quidditch. The series' fictional game is a bit like handball, but players need to run with broomsticks between their legs and score by throwing a misshapen ball through a hoop. Try explaining that and the other fairly odd rules to your parents. Anyway, we saw some familiar faces at the game, such as STP's Tommy McIntyre and tennis's Mark Robinson, seen here after he scores a goal. And wait, LTV News' Steve Graham. Oh my gosh, indeed it is. Look at that move. Good grief, wowie. Good job, Steve. Good job. But Steve is here with us right now. Steve, how are you, sir?
Couldn't be better.
How are you feeling after that event?
I'm a little sore.
A little sore.
Yeah, so the role, basically you had a tennis ball and a sock, and the people playing the game had to catch that, and there was just hands flying everywhere. Yeah, exactly like prison. You run through a gauntlet. And it's just, you got to protect yourself out there. But I had a great time. I got caught at least 4 or 5 times. There's some pretty fast guys.
I mean, I feel as though that's okay because you were just one of 3 Golden Snitches, I believe is what they're called. So they played like maybe 5 games that night.
Yeah.
So you're a little gassed after that, naturally. I don't understand how you found the spirit to do that. The reserve, thank you. The reserve to do that. And I think getting caught 4 or 5 times in an atmosphere like that, under those conditions, dude, come on. Give yourself some credit.
That, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
yeah.
that. Yeah, I had childhood asthma, and I probably grew out of it by the age of 10, but it came back that night. You know, I really felt it. I didn't have an inhaler. I kind of sucked it up and kept playing, you know?
Yeah.
But it was a great time.
Actually, I remember, because I was there taping it, you were running all over the place, and we had a brief couple seconds in which I had a chance to talk to you, and I asked you what your favorite juke or move to do to get away from your pursuers. And actually, we have a clip real quick. Let's see what Steve said about his favorite move.
Cyclops spin move. It's where you poke them in the eye so they have one eye, and then it's just your normal spin.
Did you actually use the Cyclops spin move? Did you actually use that at all during the game?
Yes, one time, but it was countered by a man with glasses. I went for the eye poke and I even got a little bruise on my finger.
What a rough game.
I'm glad you're all right.
It was some kind of sorcery I didn't even know.
Thank you, Steve, for stretching that out. Anyway, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the marquee matchup, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. So keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting GoExplorers.com and by following us on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We post game updates and sneak peeks into the upcoming show.
Also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions about the show on either website.
For Rissa, Steve, and our entire SportsLine team, I'm Jake Smolinski.
And I'm Brendan Rigney. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at the game.